My name's Tom Castro. I'm the founder of Whozoo, commercial agency business. And this is a presentation for commercial agents in the SME market, really around growth and lead generation and what agents can do in order to create more opportunities for the business, more opportunities for the agents, and more opportunities to ultimately grow and build a better business. So I think the starting point is really about defining what is SME commercial agency. We're very much focused in our business around the low to mid markets, secondary, tertiary locations, as opposed to, central London, the city, the West End. It's not really the markets that we're focused on. So it's really around that, like taking a national approach to SME commercial agency. And so what are those businesses that make up the SME commercial property market look like? So for me, it's commercial land agency businesses, typically sort of under 5 staff, sometimes up to 10, but certainly no more than 10 staff, usually focused very specifically on a local or regional market. So there'll be, John will run John's commercial agency, and they will be one of the top commercial agents in Peterborough. And John will have 2 or 3 staff, and really that's the makeup of his business, and they will be driven towards providing good commercial agency services to Peterborough and maybe some areas outside, but really no further than that. It's normally often led by a director, business owner, who is often the primary source of revenue for the business. So director owns the business and contributes 50 or 60% of the revenue, albeit there's 5 or 6 other staff or 4 or 5 other staff contributing that remaining sort of 40%. So that's typically what we expect a commercial agency to look like. Small operation, low overheads, traditional in its structure. So that will be a couple of agents and a couple of admin staff. It's a very common structure of any commercial agency or surveying practice or ultimately estate agency. But as a commercial agent, I think one of the questions is how you grow. How does John grow that business? So John is a leading agent in Peterborough, and that's great. And John wants to continue to be the leading agent in Peterborough, but maybe John wants a little bit more. And then I suppose one of the questions is, as far as growth is concerned, is to John, what does growth look like? Obviously, there's different metrics from which he could measure growth, and that could be revenue, margin, headcount, the geographic area from which they base themselves. I think let's work on the assumption that for the purposes of this presentation, growth is really around revenue and margin. Growing headcount and growing geographic location may just create burden and cost, whereas really what we're focused around is how does a business like John in Peterborough develop his business into be a better business that makes more money ultimately. I think one of the questions is really around are you an agent or a business owner or both? And I think there's no issue with being both, but I think it's really important consideration to determine which one you are. Obviously, there's only so many hours in the day and so many days in a week for which you as a business owner or you as an agent can get stuff done. You can do a bit of both, but I think it's important for agents of SME or owners of SME businesses to consider whether they are the agent within the business or whether they're the business owner. And I suppose what's the downside of being both ultimately? It's about scalability. Now, obviously, if John runs his business out of Peterborough, and John is the primary source of revenue, highly likely that that's taking up the majority of John's time, and that's time that John can't spend on growing his business. We don't believe that you can do both. That's not true. We don't believe that you can do both well. I don't believe that you can be a very high banking agent, a high revenue producing agent as an individual, whilst growing an agency business. I think the two can coexist, but I think they then sort of limit one another. So either you're doing the deals and you let someone else run the business, or you run the business and you let someone else do the deals. The good thing about the side of running the business is you can find and train good people to do deals. I think it's much harder to find and train someone who's going to run the business for you, particularly if you're the owner of the business. It's highly likely that that side of things, i.e. you become the sole operator of the business and you get agents below to run the business, that's much more scalable if you can get that right. And I think from a valuation perspective, as far as the company is concerned, if a company is less reliant on the owner to be revenue producing, then ultimately that should mean a better valuation for the business at the point where someone goes to sell. If you consider the fact that if 50% of the revenue is driven by you as the owner, anyone who's going to buy your business or anyone who's going to invest in your business is going to consider that is a fundamental part of the revenue that can't stop. And it's highly unlikely that that can be replaced. So it's one of the questions for John. Is it deals today or growth tomorrow? So there has to be a sacrifice. So in order for the business to grow, John might need to sacrifice himself as the primary deal doer in order for him to ultimately to build a better business. What you might find is that John or anyone who's running a business can get sort of pigeonholed into the constant need for the owner operator to be revenue producing and producing fee income, which means that he can't step away from doing deals and creating fees in order to run and grow the business. In the SME market, there's only so much revenue that an individual agent can do. It's not like some of the central London markets where people can do hundreds and hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of pounds worth of fees. As an individual, there's only so many hours in a day that an agent can actually transact, and particularly at the lower lot size. So for an agent to grow their business, they need to ultimately have more people revenue producing. Outside of market conditions, ultimately the quality of banking comes down to the individuals, and most good agents who bank good money for a firm will ultimately leave and set up on their own, or go and become a developer, go client side. So on the assumption that it is hard to both transact on lots of deals and run a business or grow a business at the same time, ultimately as a business owner it becomes a choice. My opinion is that 99% of people will choose deals today over growth tomorrow. It's an easier choice to make. You get the benefits of it now. You get the money now. You get the feeling of success now. Money, kudos, everything else. It's just easier to make the decision to do deals now than it is to grow a business or focus your time and attention on growing a business beyond that. But then the question is, if you're 38 and you're running that business, let's say John in Peterborough is 38 years old, he's constantly on that cycle of, year starts, revenue produce, get to the end, hopefully profitable, and then next year it's again and again and again and again. And John is going to continue to do that whilst he's, into his 40s and then 50s, and then keep going and going and going. So one of the questions for John is, how can John create an environment where he can step away from that position and run a business whereby he can service other people and create opportunities for other people, which means that he can run and grow the business, not just be the best agent in Peterborough, but maybe the surrounding towns too. And really it stems from the ability for John to create leads for other people, as well as training and support, but work on the basis of this, that anybody that John recruits is going to be capable and competent of executing deals. But what they need from John is the opportunities. So we're focusing on the growth side of the business, and the basis around that is the ability of sellers and landlords to find John's business in order for him to then offer the service, which is selling or giving professional services advice, something like that. So we need to create leads. We need a lead generation strategy. The more consistently that you create opportunities for your agents, the more the agents you can employ, the more deals will happen, the more growth there'll be, the quicker that growth will be. Ultimately, you'll then be able to get a higher market share, possibly enter new markets, and then take higher share there. Ultimately, John has the ability to then build a better business by having a lead generation strategy. So, simply put, how do you get more sellers and landlords? If we consider how we go around this, there needs to be a plan in place. which consistently delivers inbound opportunities for the agents. A massive consideration to look at is, what do you currently do? So if you're a commercial agency and you run a business, how do you create opportunities now? Do you just let them filter in organically by virtue of having an agency in the market? That's fine, but that's not a plan. That's not scalable. It's not investable. There's no growth strategy around opportunities just naturally finding themselves into your business. What are you investing in order to make that happen? What is the results of that investment? How do you monitor the quantity and quality of leads that are coming into the business? And if you are monitoring it, what are the results? What do they mean? You'll find that most commercial agencies don't take this approach, and it's a more generic approach to lead generation and organically creating opportunities for the business, which, as I say, I don't believe is a plan to build a scalable, fast growth business. That's more about survival, market driven growth, i.e. when the market's good, you'll grow. When the market's flat, you'll be flat, where you will continue to be a good agent in your local market, but you won't be anything more than that. So in terms of lead generation, what does it all mean? So there's lots of different options of how one can generate leads. Each business will have their own different strategy on their own different plan. Our belief is, for SME commercial agency, that a multi-channel approach is the right approach. So you're not just investing in SEO, but you're also investing in social media, direct mail. There's no one strategy that can be labelled the holy grail, but it's about trying and testing different methods in order to create opportunities into the business. Again, that will be probably different subject to which end of the market or which local market you work in. But the key thing is about understanding the results. What do the results mean for each segment here? So if you're doing SEO, great, what does it actually mean? No point in just having an SEO consultant charge you $2,000 a month if you don't really understand the purpose of it. And okay, cool, you might rank top on Google in your local area, but sort of what's the point? What are you measuring? What are you monitoring? And what's the results of that? And that's really going to start to determine the drivers behind your lead generation strategy by starting at the end. What results are we looking for? So what does this all mean? Let's talk the basics of marketing. We're talking about inbound and outbound marketing. Inbound marketing is things you invest in order to create opportunities for people to see you and they want to contact you directly, whereas outbound marketing is where people will contact you, where you will contact a potential client asking if they want your service. So the difference here really is about intent. Inbound marketing is they find you because they're looking for your service. Outbound marketing is you find them and ask if they want your service. So they have totally different levels of intent. And again, that's a real strong driver behind your lead generation, is what's actually the intent here when you're communicating with the clients. So let's keep this simple. We're going back to school. You've got 100 leads. 50 of those leads convert into valuations. 20 of those valuations convert into instructions. 10 of those instructions convert into deals. So we're now talking about conversion rates. So 50% conversion rate between lead to valuation, 40% conversion rate between valuation and instruction, 50% conversion rate in between instruction to deal. If your average fee is 10k, your revenue is 100k. That's 10 deals times 10k. To put it simply, you create 100 leads, that creates 10 deals, that creates 100k's worth of revenue. So, what are the key metrics here? We're talking about number of leads, percentage that convert into valuations, percentage of valuations that convert into instructions, percentage of instructions that convert into deals, and then we're also interested in our overall percentage of lead to deal. So of those 100 leads, we're creating 10 deals, that's 100k's worth of revenue. We want to look at how we're improving that conversion rate. If you want to do more business, some or all of the following needs to happen. Increase the number of leads and just accept that 10% is the conversion rate. Improve the conversion rate across those various steps, or increase the average fee. But increasing the number of leads costs money. Increasing the average fee is quite difficult unless you fundamentally change the market that you operate in. But increasing the conversion rate ultimately should be most cost-effective way of increasing your revenue if this business creates 100 leads and currently that's only converting into 10 deals, if that business can create that same 100 leads, but they can increase their conversion rates across the process, then ultimately they should be getting more revenue. So if you can improve your conversion rate from valuation to instruction, if you can change your conversion rate of instruction from 50% to 75%, then you've taken your revenue from 100k to 150k, adding 50% of your revenue for free. But where do you start? So you could start with the 30 that didn't instruct, or the 50 who didn't want a valuation, or the 10 that didn't sell. So there's no right answer here. It's a case of breaking down the steps of each element, who in the business and what influences each step, in order to understand how to improve those conversion rates. One of the things that could be used here in order to help this process is the CRM. Obviously, the use of your CRM can play a major factor in this, and understanding how to maximize value out of it and ensure that each step of the process is monitored is hugely valuable. This might be people going, hang on a sec, just go back to the start and say, what do you mean when you say 100 leads over what period of time? Now, I mean, I would be talking monthly, 100 leads a month. Have you ever measured how many people contact you each month, and how many of them want to sell their buildings, and what the conversion rate is of those people who contact you become valuations, and how many of those become instructions? And what about the quality? And where did those leads come from? What's the source? And is it replicable? And one of the questions would be, well, we only get 10 leads a month. How do we get 100? So one of the questions we're often asked is, how do we get our leads? There's no single secret to getting lots of leads into a business. It's about starting with the end in mind and setting a goal, as opposed to just saying, right, we need more leads. Okay, you need more leads, but for what purpose? You know, what's your plan? What's the goal here? We want to be the best agent in Peterborough, like John, or we want to be national, we want to be international. Whatever that plan is going to ultimately dictate the volume of leads you need, the revenue, the budget you'll have to spend on those leads. And ultimately, it's about creating that goal, creating that plan. So looking at what your current resources are and what you have access to, and are they good enough to hit that target? What inbound and outbound marketing is going to be effective for you as a business, that might be different business to business, but ultimately it's about having a plan, testing, and then monitoring the results of those tests, and then reviewing each step of the way to make sure that you are really understanding, when you're investing in lead generation, what the result of that is, and whether that's effective or not. Having lots of leads is good if they're good leads, but having lots of bad leads is not helpful. It just creates busy fools. Obviously, one of the things you could do if you need more leads, you could join Whozoo, because we are essentially a platform for commercial agents to partner with to create opportunities. We have over 50 agents and partners across the UK at the moment, many of whom we are providing leads for. If you don't have time to create your own opportunities, you can work with Whozoo to do that. We've got a method of creating opportunities as a constant flow of commercial and development opportunities for agents. That's putting agents in touch with sellers and landlords. It's free. Working with Whozoo is completely free, and we're obviously happy to work with any agents to also discuss their current lead generation plan. So that's even people who don't necessarily want to work with us. If people are intrigued about lead generation and want to know more, then by all means, give us a call. But how we work is it's free. We don't pass any costs on any of our investment in lead generation. It's entirely speculative for the agents. We know it works because, as I say, we generate over 100 leads per month. We work on a percentage split with you as agents. It's 50-50 split. So we create opportunities for you. If you sell those opportunities, we'll split a fee with you on a 50-50 basis. If none of your leads ever convert, then first of all, we'd be having a conversation with you as to why that is, and we give you the support in order to work with you to make sure that your conversion rates are higher. But if none of your leads ever convert, then you don't pay us a penny, and that's ultimately our risk. Anyone can join Whozoo, small commercial agencies. Ultimately, this is just a short snapshot into how we see the SME commercial market and how businesses can grow by virtue of creating more opportunities via lead generation. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us at Whozoo if you have any questions. And we look forward to working with you.